kind of being there, Syndra, who's definitely risen up quite a bit, but I think EDG have come in with a game plan already, right? You can kind of see like the Ziggs, the Camille, banned away, Ali's best champ and most played in his career by far. Renekton has kind of been the blind pickable top lane that LNG have put a lot of heat on towards in these playoff stages, so not surprised to see that taken away. It does leave something like the Jiejie open that Flandre has played if they want to go towards that style. It's been something LNG have banned and Ali has not been comfortable against.
Yeah, the Varus comes out for Viper as well. It's his second most played AD carry of the split. It's something that EDG have been very comfortable going with this more long-range style. But it does feel like already there's been a spanner put into the works for EDG. Very slow first rotation. Perhaps not expecting that Olaf, but Scout goes for the LeBlanc.
Yeah, and that's a big takeaway coming through from Icon. We talked about like the Rise and the LeBlanc being the two big picks for him, so taking that away is going to be super nice. But now I'm curious to see if Icon responds with the Lysandra, if we see something along these lines, or if he wants to go towards more of a bruiser-oriented mid lane, like we've seen the Sylas come into this quite a bit as well. But I imagine here we're going to see the support look locked in. It looks like Lwandy will be taking the Trundle, and I wouldn't be surprised to see an Ashe maybe come in as well. Like, does very well against that Varus, have a lot of that pick opportunity, and can do reasonably well with getting the things like the Wit's End to keep her safe from the LeBlanc burst.
Dagda, you might just be a prophet here, because that's exactly what they're going to hover for the side of LNG, and I definitely agree. A lot of follow-up, a lot of setup for Tarzan to be the carry with a utility AD carry down in the bottom side for Light. But as we say that, Icon goes for one of his specialties. This is something that I'm not sure we've seen from him this split, but it's a pick that we've seen from him historically. He's very good into that LeBlanc.
You've just got to assume Icon has played it. He's played 21 champions this split. Like, this guy's kind of just played everything, so I think he'll be all right on this one. But still, I think you're now going to see EDG going towards those bans, right? The Ashe in that bottom lane. You can look towards some other things like the Ezreal if you want to as well. Kind of make sure that Light's going to be uncomfortable. Whereas for Jiejie, he's now locked himself in the Viegos, so going to be taking that towards that jungle. Could be flexed up to Flandre, but definitely something that's been seen more in the jungle since the nerfs that have come in on this patch.
Yeah, I mean, this is... honestly, it feels like Viego much lower priority in the LPL than a lot of the other regions, kind of to the point of it being a surprise, because I feel like it's pretty much first pick in some other regions, but I digress. The Ashe going to be banned away here by EDG. We saw, obviously, LNG hovering that very heavily, so it makes sense to try and deny that as a pick, whereas Meiko getting some hard engaged supports taken away from him.
I will say it's a bit of a scumbag move from EDG. Clearly, the Freljord composition was coming out for LNG, and you just had to ban away the only AD carry they could take from that. But definitely, you can see like what LNG are trying to go for here is this kind of like slow you up, look for the Lysandra engage, kind of enable this Olaf to a certain extent in these team fights, especially in these early stages. So I'd be curious to see now like what Light wants to go for. We've seen Ezreal kind of being the fallback in these situations. But you could even potentially see something like a Syndra also be flexed out to that bottom lane if they really want to, and then try and play through again, more CC, more stuns, so Olaf can kind of work his way through and power through this early to mid game.
It's kind of an interesting one, right? Because the Trundle, generally speaking, we've seen it often paired with the Ziggs down in that bottom side, but there's always a possibility of a flex, right? Trundle can be a top laner as well, but the thing is, we're going to know whether that happens because Flandre has that counter pick for the final pick of the draft. Dagda, what do you expect LNG to finish things out with here?
Well, I think you definitely need more damage to be coming through an LNG side. So I'll be looking to see what LA decides to go with in that top lane. I think maybe a Kennen could actually work relatively well here and has been still left open. But you definitely need something that can carry the damage that you're going to be missing from Icon in that mid lane. And LA has been playing a lot of Irelia in his solo queue, so maybe we get that coming through. But feels a bit weird to pick a blind when you know that Flandre is going to have that counter pick.
Now hovering the Jason, it would give a lot of long-range damage alongside that Ezreal. Bit of poke coming out from LNG, and Alec goes for the blind Jace up in the top lane. And right now, with that Irelia being hovered, we saw Ale hovering the Irelia as well. It would certainly be an exciting matchup, wouldn't it, Dagda? That would be a good way to kick this series off, would be Irelia Jace up at the top side. We'll see if that's locked in.
It feels like EDG are coming in with a very different game plan from what they had against WE though, because this is a composition that's going to be playing very heavily through that top side, enabling Flandre to play aggressive and jump on towards Ale. You've got like a relatively, neutralized bot lane because of the Ezreal, so this is going to be EDG playing a lot more through that top side of the map, and well, I'm excited to see now if they can make this work, because it's not what we've seen from them in the regular split. It kind of fell apart for them a little bit against WE, but I think it works against LNG here.
We'll see if it's going to work out for them. Perhaps Jiejie going back to the drawing board and saying, hey, I can play topside too, okay? That's not just a Junja thing. I'm able to play through the top side. Honestly, Dagda, I love the first elimination match here in the double elim. It's EDG versus LNG, and importantly, it is Tarzan versus Viper on the Rift. You can see on the Chinese side, they're looking at that mid lane matchup between the two veterans as well.
I'm really surprised to see Ale picking up this Jace. Like, this has not been an Ale pick. He's only played it twice throughout the split, and traditionally we've seen Ale kind of more at home on things like Jax, Camille, Gwen's, even Renekton's. Like, this hasn't been a pick that he's gone towards an awful lot, so I'm curious to see now how Tarzan can facilitate this, because as we said, like, Flandre can definitely turn this matchup around when he hits level 3, well, kind of more 4 or 5, is able to jump onto the Jace and try and whack him down. But both junglers need to try and facilitate, well, the style of either, hey, Flandre going aggressive, or Ale just being safe here in that top side.
And remember, if FPX, or if LNG wins today, if EDG are knocked out of the bracket, FPX will guarantee a spot at the World Championship, either first or second seed. Whereas if EDG wins today, they can guarantee themselves at least second seed as well. So a lot on the line when it comes to championship points between these two teams, or between EDG and FPX, I suppose, as opposed to these two teams. Interesting start there from Flandre, hiding in the bush, channeling his W to get all 3 of those first melee minions. I like it. Creative play here coming out from the top laner of EDG. Let's talk early game though, Dagda, because we have opposite pathing from our two junglers.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised by this, because obviously Olaf moving up top, but actually got to hold on to this talk, because we're going to cheeky play here from Jiejie.
Yeah, it's a bit sneaky. Scout goes in, looks for the bind. That's a flash out from Icon already. The Scout does take a tower shot for his trouble, so perhaps aggressing a little too much. But without flash and no ignite, I don't think Icon can really punish him.
No, but you can see, like, Scout does have to back away. If Tarzan was to run into that lane, you could be in a bit of trouble. But I'm actually looking at the bot lane matchup right now, because Lwandy's gone for the Hail of Blades, whereas traditionally we see that Guardian. So you'd want to be trying to facilitate Lwandy to go aggressive in these early stages, use the fact that Trundle is so obnoxious level 1 to level 4, but because we get Tarzan pathing topside, it feels like it's going to be a bit of time before we can get down there. So I'm kind of surprised to see Lwandy go for an aggressive rune choice when we just said, hey, chances are Tarzan's going to be playing topside with Ale.
Well, Scout is back in the lane, and immediately he's like, all right, I've got 3 corrupting potion stacks. It is time to use them. Icon's kind of winning these trades, though, honestly. Scout using everything onto him, but Icon is actually holding his own very well.
And it's kind of surprising, because it's not even the rune. I'm going to go on about runes here again. Because, like, usually we see the Aftershock, right? And it's an electrocute, Lissandra. The Aftershock, you take the extra magic and resist.
Oh my goodness, Lwandy has to flash away in the bottom side. That was so close, and a beautiful little setup from Meiko.
And this is the 2v2 that we're expecting to see from Viper Meiko, right? We talk about them being dominant in lane, winning out through just how good they are at laning. Well, now we get to see a little touch of that coming through already, burning the flash from Lwandy and keeping him honest here. If another hook lands from Meiko, that could be lights out for Lwandy.
Flandre is in trouble. We know this guy for playing weak side. They drafted a different style, but Flandre getting caught under the tower. Ale tanking as Tarzan goes in, stunned under the tower as well. He did his best and he's turned it around. The solo kill from Flandre. Oh, do I'm gonna eat your heart out. We've got a weak side king here in the LPL as the stun comes out onto Icon as well. Remember, no flash from earlier, and it means Scout will pick himself up as a kill.
Brilliant job from EDG to turn that around. Flandre managing to pick up the kill. Amazing. And now you end up with Flandre TP in mid as well, so he's going to get to clear this wave as light. What's happening bot lane?
The flash forward. That was so close to finish it off. And, you know, EDG's bot lane was criticized after the series against WE, Meiko especially, about how they weren't dominant in lane. Not today, Dagda.
Not today, but let's look at Flandre topside. So try to pick up as much CS as you can. The stun, though, is the big turnaround here. Watch the flawless duet. Catches Tarzan as he goes in. He held onto that for so long, just stunning him up as Ale has to drop turret aggro. So Tarzan falls, and Scout has managed to roam up here. It's the nice thing about the mobility with the LeBlanc and Jiejie here. They just help give that one over.
I feel like they maybe could have gone for Ale as well, but I guess he had flash, so maybe I'm just being a little bit greedy on that one. But EDG, really good start to this one. You said right at the beginning after Champ Select that they needed to be aggressive, and they certainly are as Scout gets another little electrocute proc going off there. And Icon is starting to feel the pressure of this mid lane matchup. We said these two veterans have to step up for their teams, but it's Tarzan and Jiejie who are going, I was going to say to cross swords. It's a sword and an axe. I don't know if you can cross those necessarily, but Jiejie is going to scare the Viking away.
Yeah, and the big thing here is that EDG, like, you get the play top side. You don't actually lose out in the CS because Scout manages to take that top lane CS. Flandre TP mid to get that, so he's kind of even Steven plus a kill now in his back pocket. And when we're looking at kind of the later portion of the game, when Scout's picked up a few items, he can essentially one-shot nearly everyone on LNG side, especially because Icon isn't running that Aftershock. And you start to get the Viego coming online. Flandre going to be able to be a menace to the majority of LNG, so LNG need to play this very carefully where they aren't allowing EDG to close that gap, or the later portion of the game, EDG would just tear them apart.
I have to say as well, when you look at the way these two teams have drafted as well, when you look at overall power picks in the game right now, LeBlanc, Viego, Aurelia, Varus, Thresh, which has been like the most banned globally support in the entire world, I think. It does feel like EDG kind of have a bit of Exodia going on their side. And important to mention, LNG has never beaten EDG in the LPL before. Not a singular series. They have one game ever. EDG would love to keep that record as they move to this bottom lane. Light, no flash. Lwandy, no flash. Light already down. Hook under the tower as well. A heartbreaker as Lwandy finds himself alone, and it is a picturesque dive from EDG.
And there's nothing that LNG can do. They've been running around the map, and this is the EDG that we expected in playoffs. Playing well off of reading their opponents, Jiejie constantly being in position to counter gank, setting up their own plays on the bottom side of the map with Scout roaming down. It's been so good to see, and now you're up a creek without a paddle as LNG. Your top lane's losing, your mid lane is losing, and your bot lane has just fallen behind as well.
And I mean, that was executed to perfection from the side of EDG. Really nicely done. And that is the style that we wanted to see. You're saying this is what we wanted when it came into playoffs. That's what we saw all split, right? Diving the bottom lane, setting Viper up as the primary carry. This game, it has been Scout really being the one that is in the carry position with his early 2 kills, but playing towards Viper, making sure Light is put behind as well. There's already a big goal difference in multiple lanes in favor of EDG.
And remember what we were talking about with LNG, right? We wanted to see them kind of playing at range, using the Ezreal and the Jace poke, and trying to use Trundle pillars to slow the advance of EDG, using Icon to lock people down as well. That becomes so much more difficult when you're behind. So I want to see EDG now turning their attention towards these dragons, towards this Rift Herald, starting to get the towers out of the way so they can get that deep vision that's going to deny LNG so much accessibility towards things like River and towards these later objectives.
EDG have spotted Tarzan in the jungle here. Scout's going to move forward, goes for the tether here, looking for Ragnarok, and they found it. That's a cooldown burn. And not really much in exchange for it. EDG now have to try and escape because LNG are moving up to the top side to try and contest this Herald. Ale getting some damage onto Jiejie, but they can't close the gap, and it means LNG kind of struggling in this situation. They even roam the support up very early on there to try and fight for the Herald, but they won't be able to get a foothold.
And the entire time that they're trying to move people around for that Rift Herald, Viper's just pushing on the bottom side. Varus just pushes so much better than Ezreal does. He's already taken nearly 3 turret plays for himself. Now I want he's going to run back down. But watch Meiko. He just moves back up, and they start the Rift Herald up for EDG.
EDG playing this early game like a damn fiddle, as they've just completely orchestrated everything. Every single thing that has happened so far this game has been EDG saying, this is what's happening next, and LNG having to respond to that. It's beautiful to witness. And now LNG, they don't really have a response anywhere on the map to what's happening up there. All they can do is push out that bottom lane, but you can't really push against that Varus, really. He's going to be able to clear the wave. He's going to be able to defend the tower plates, so it feels really difficult for LNG.
Yeah, maybe they try to respond with the dragon here. You can see they fully pushed in bot, but you still have to be pretty nervous of like Scout and also Jiejie coming over. But it looks like EDG pretty okay to let that one go. They're just going to try and set up for this Rift Arrow play on the bottom side as well. Expose the fact that there's already those turret plates gone on the bottom lane and get Viper even further ahead.
That's the crazy thing. They already got 3 plates without the Rift Herald. Now they've got a Herald to finish that one off. This is what we expected in playoffs. This is what was missing against WE, and, you know, part due to missing specifically. But at the end of the day, this is what I think a lot of fans of EDG were worried about when it came to playoffs in that first series, right? They were worried of where did this style of play go? Feels like EDG have gone back to basics and back to what we're used to seeing from them.
Yeah, and I'm gonna rattle off a couple of statistics at you here from the regular split, right? Because EDG had complete dominance. First Blood, second highest in the league. Dragon, second highest in the league. Rift Herald, second highest in the league. Baron, third highest in the league. Gold difference of 15. They were first with a 1,300 gold lead on average at the 15-minute mark. And their KDA at the 15-minute mark was second in the league as well. These guys were so insanely dominant in the early season and in the regular split. It's insane that we didn't get to see that against WE, but now we are getting to see why they were so strong, and we haven't even hit the 15-minute mark, but we're looking at almost a 2k gold lead.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking to outdo their averages in this game right now. But with the focus on that Herald as opposed to the Drake, because I think that's a key thing that has been different in playoffs from EDG, is they have not focused towards the Drake as much as they did in the regular season, quite often foregoing Heralds in the early game to go for Drakes instead. This game, we're still seeing that focus on the Herald that we've seen from, I mean, pretty much every team in the LPL, right? There are very few teams that are focusing Drakes over Heralds when there's an opportunity to go for the Herald.
Well, looks like we're going to get that Rift Herald play right now on the bottom side of the map. Lwandy and Light, they're going to have to back away. They just don't have the support here. They've also got TPs from Scout and Flandre that can join. You cannot fight this.
Yep, so tower goes down. Viper getting a whole chunk of local gold right there as he saw Jiejie and Meiko back away. Tarzan's here though. Jiejie in trouble, trying to dash away for himself, but Lwandy cannot close the gap, get involved. The hook goes wide from Meiko. It's a bit of a disaster really, isn't it? But not going to be the end of the world. A Scout is here to play body block and not let Tarzan in. So EDG, they don't manage to finish the kill off. They're still winning out the play. They still got a second charge. Still going to almost finish a tier 2 in the bottom side. Dagda, we're only 12.5 minutes in, and they've nearly finished a tier 2 in the bottom lane. Now there's an all-in on the top side as well, but Ale just going to disengage.
But now you get to rotate Viper around, right? You send him top side, he can take more plates, or at least start on that top lane turret as well. Or you could even send him mid, play out through these side lanes as Meiko has to flash away from Icon, but play out these side lanes with the strong LeBlanc you have with 2 kills, and Flandre as well, having full control against Ale.
Yeah, feels like EDG have put themselves in a commanding position as they move towards the mid-game here, because we're 13 minutes onto the clock, and it is an almost 4,000 gold lead in their favor, which is kind of mental to think about when you look at the champions that they're running as well. Lethality Varus, exceptionally strong in the mid-game. LeBlanc, exceptionally strong in the mid-game. Irelia and Viego, just exceptionally strong, full stop. You don't have to worry about which time of the game it is. So it feels like EDG compositionally in an amazing spot. Let's talk LNG though, Dagda, because I feel like coming into this series, the thing that could have given LNG an edge was the early game prowess, right? That was what made them look good against FPX. That was the thing that I think stood out to most people. We really haven't seen that so far. What can they do to find their way back into this game?
Yeah, I think they have to start looking for picks with Icon. Like, we kind of saw them nearly get Meiko there as he forced the flash away. If you can try and slow down the advance of EDG, you can definitely get yourselves into a position where you get 2 items onto Light. Tarzan hits Hysteric's Gauge. Ale gets himself towards his Mythic, and also having that Mana Mune completed as well. So maybe you can look for some fights then at that stage. But right now, you are so far behind, it's really difficult to try and hold your own. And especially if EDG are going to start swapping into this 1-3-1 sort of style, it's even more difficult then to deal with because you just don't win out on side lanes.
To be honest, it feels to me right now that for LNG, everything is on the shoulders of Light, right? When it gets to the later stages of the game, you do still have this Ezreal and do a good job of just outranging everything on the side of EDG. The concern is whether or not they can get to that late game stage, because one of the things that you were talking about just a minute ago, Dagda, is that EDG, when they have a lead, they are exceptionally good at just closing the game out. And Ezreal is one of these champions that does need a couple of items before he's able to hard carry any kind of fights. Second Drake onto the map though, Dagda. It's going to be a Cloud Drake. You expect EDG to have full control of this one, and crucially, there will be either a Mountain or an Infernal Soul. Very, very good for EDG.
It will be coming a little bit later, obviously, because LNG have that one Ocean Drake, but as you can see, LNG happy to give that one up. The one I'm more concerned about is this Rift Tower that's about to spawn, because if you give that up, that's a mid lane turret gone. That's a top lane turret gone. But if you try and commit to that top side of the map, look at where Flandre is. Flandre shoves in bot, takes a tier 2 for himself, gets the 250 gold extra that those turrets were given. He's like, thank you very much. Now, Ale, I'm an even bigger pain in your behind.
It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation for LNG, right? You either fight for the Herald to stop yourself losing towers and lose towers, or you defend your towers and lose the Herald, so you lose towers. Like, there's no way to win, Dagda. It doesn't feel fair.
All roads lead to losing towers.
Yeah, exactly. Ale just getting his ankles broken by Scout at the top side now as they are changing their lane positioning, or at least Flandre was just still on the bottom side. Nobody responding to Flandre right now. He does have TP, but LNG, who've grouped up on the top side of the map, you can see Light is in the mid lane. Even with everyone here, are they going to be here in time to actually contest this one? EDG have backed away. This could be a late contest coming out. 2K on the Herald. Tarzan moving in. It's too late. EDG got themselves the Herald. They get out of there. And suddenly, this 5-man stack on the top side from LNG looks a little bit lackluster.
Yeah, unless they can try and make some sort of dive onto Scout or something happen. Otherwise, you can see where Flandre is. He's just pushed in that bottom wave. I think he'll be able to get that turret as well, because LNG are reacting late. Icon, he's even forced to dip, so LNG not really finding any sort of purchase on the map right now.
Not finding anything for the time being, and that 4,000 gold lead has finally reached that. Weird sentence. They have now reached the 4,000 mark. I said they were almost 4,000 earlier. They've gone past that threshold at this stage. And the question is, what can LNG do about it? Because I'm not seeing that same LNG that managed to go for the miracle run. I'm not seeing that same LNG that managed to take FPX really to the edge in a couple of those games of that best of 5 in the fourth round of playoffs. So LNG now perhaps need to go back to the drawing board when it comes to the draft for game number 2, because I'm certainly thinking, like, the Xin Zhao was much more convincing than this Olaf has been. I don't feel like Tarzan has had much of a way to influence the game yet. And I'm thinking maybe Icon on something like a Lulu as opposed to this Lysandra. Now, obviously, I'm not trying to call it before it's over. I'm not super convinced by this draft that's come out from LNG.
It feels like after the first play went to Ride, they kind of just dipped and... Ooh, gone. I also saw that first play that went to Ryan the top side. They were like, hey, look, head went down, we're not doing any more plays on the map like that, which I think was a bit of a mistake. The second thing I'm still surprised at is this electrocute for Icon. Like, Aftershock is the standard one for a reason in this matchup, because you just neutralize the whole thing and you play to breathe the front line. And especially in this composition, Icon is playing front line, but can't really do it with an electrocute.
Feels like a challenge at very least in the Everfrost there. He's got a bit of healing reduction as well, but he is a long way away from ever getting a Zhonya's. Doesn't even have that stopwatch, which is one of the, the core components of playing the Lysandra in the fights. And to be honest, that signals to me, not having a stopwatch there, that they're not looking for a fight yet, but Flandre is looking for a 1v1 onto Ale. The Q's coming out. The flash over the wall. Waiting on cooldowns here. The Q's coming up. Blade surge to victory. And Ale, your technology can't save you now.
And it's so well done by Flandre, the guy that we highlighted, the bastion of hope for EDG at the start of the day. Well, EDG as a whole look good, and Flandre's looking even better, picking up that solo kill for himself. We'll be able to get this bottom tier 2 as well, because no one at LNG can go and stop it. Icon's nearly dead, and mid lane's under siege as well.
Feels like never-ending pressure coming out from EDG here as they push all 3 lanes simultaneously. Flandre will finish the tier 2. And he can threaten a dive in the mid lane. LNG have to be really careful about Flandre being off on the flank. Tarzan trying to get onto Meiko, but misses the undertow. There's just no window here for LNG. Let's take another look at this, Dagda.
Doesn't even realize that he's been spotted, and just there, flawless duet, gives the vision over the wall as it connects, and that's just beautiful from Flandre. Really well played, really well executed.
And he's 10 CS ahead of 10 per minute as well in the same breath there. Scout gets himself under a tower. 3 people committed topside there from LNG, but Icon was late to the play, and it means Scout can get away with his life. LNG will finally get themselves a tower, but it feels like a meager reward compared to what EDG have been sweeping up across the map.
They needed to do something, though. They were losing this mid lane siege. Viper was slowly working away at this tower. They needed Icon to kind of get in there to see if they could pick off Scout as well, but at least they're getting that tower rather than just this slow bleed that's been happening. And maybe now they can get some vision into this topside jungle, look for those picks that they need to try and get back into the game by like just overloading one side of the map, but they have to be so careful because they've lost that bot lane tier 2. There's always the opportunity for EDG to just answer by sweeping in and taking that inhibitor turret on the bottom side.
Perhaps an opportunity for EDG in the future at very least, but with Ale here, can't go for the play just yet. As you can see, Tarzan, or actually no, it was Lwandy hovering towards the bottom side. I still think of Trundle as a jungler, even though he's been consistently support for so long now. Tarzan will at least grab himself a red buff. Icon and Tarzan moving into the enemy portion of the map here, trying to take some jungle camps. Scout is there to just defend things, at least for the time being, as the Drake went down for EDG, and he's going on to Tarzan himself. The fact that when you're in a 2v1, you can be this aggressive and get away with it without even getting hit back says a lot about the state of this game.
Yeah, it's gotten a bit out of control here for LNG. A 5k gold lead for EDG. 2 dragons picked up. You've got another one spawning in just 4 minutes. Baron pretty much under control of EDG as well, because there's no real way that LNG can start that up. They just don't have control of anywhere on the map. And again, Viper's just free farming in this mid lane. Shoving a wave, open up control. You can see now Jiejie moving in to get vision control alongside Meiko. And it's very easy for EDG to try and take this this Baron, especially when you got like Aurelia, Viego, and you'll be picking up those Blade of the Rune Kings fairly quickly for both those champions as well.
Yeah, lot of damage on the side of EDG. One thing I will say, a lot of physical damage on the side of EDG, so perhaps a window there for LNG in terms of itemization. Certainly Light will be able to build himself a Frozen Heart and be very, very tanky, very difficult to deal with for the side of EDG, but that feels like a long way away. 5,000, almost 6,000 gold lead in EDG's favor right now. And honestly, thank God, right? Because after what we saw against WE from EDG, it feels good. It feels like we're back to regular season EDG, right? This is what we wanted to see. Feels good to see them back again.
I mean, it just feels like EDG's LNG's kryptonite, right? As we said, they've only picked up a single game win since 2019 against EDG. They haven't picked up a single series win at all. LNG have always struggled against EDG, and now the organization once more in playoffs, not really finding a way in. Now, it's only game 1. We still have the rest of this best of 5 to play, but certainly for EDG fans, you'll be breathing a sigh of relief. But for LNG, you're kind of holding your head going, lads, where's that magic that we saw at the start of the playoffs?
Yeah, miracle run in jeopardy if EDG can win this one out, as Icon just gets blasted by Scout and he doesn't even land the route back. Literally no damage went onto Scout there. Very, very difficult situation for Icon so far in this series. 0-1 and not really able to have much of an impact. And you talked about it before, Flandre goes back to the side lane once again because the threat that he offers on this Aurelia is terrifying. Ale cannot straight up 1v1 against Flandre. Perhaps he'll be able to survive underneath the tower, but if Flandre ever catches him out of position, Ale is in deep water.
But it's the same set for the opposite side, right? Because you don't have this aftershock, Lysandra, Scout can nearly one-shot you. Like we just saw Icon taken below half health and he didn't even get to do anything back. Scout can just continue to do this, especially if Icon walks up here.
Scout not too confident to go for the 1v1 because he knows that LNG have a few more members nearby in the top side. Let's talk positioning on the map for a second here, Dagda, because it feels like things are starting to slow down. We've had 7 kills in 24 minutes. It's been pretty slow the entire time, let's be honest. But when we're talking about this next Drake that's coming up in a minute and a half and trying to pressure onto this Baron, it does feel like EDG are being very patient and not trying to overstep.
Yeah, I mean, this is the EDG way, right? We look at them kind of as like the by-the-book guys. Oftentimes it's, okay, cool, we'll go towards bot side, we'll get dragons, we'll force you to team fight at dragon. LNG haven't been going towards any of the dragons, so EDG haven't found those team fights, but they're perfectly happy to just keep trading up when it comes towards that side lane pressure, getting these initial dragons under their belt. And look, you could either fight in a minute here as LNG for this next dragon, or you fight at the one that's in 5 minutes time. Either way, you're still going to be forced to, and right now, you don't have a stopwatch on towards this Lysandra. She's incredibly vulnerable. Ale and Light not really in a position to carry these fights just because of how big Flandre is, how large Scout is with that Banshee's Veil as well. It becomes really difficult for LNG to just dissuade EDG, especially with the control that they have around this dragon.
Stopwatch has been picked up by Icon now since we started this conversation. And I think that could be a signal that LNG don't want to let this dragon go. If EDG can grab it for themselves, they'll get Soul Point, which certainly will help them in terms of trying to slowly but surely win the game out. Shock Blast comes through from Ale. There's a stun as well onto Tarzan, but not much of a follow-up here from EDG. Scout over the wall now, looking for a bit of poke, won't quite find it. The Drake just going to be started up here. LNG going to be late to the party. They're running up towards the mid lane instead, looking for a tower here. Drake goes down to EDG. That's Soul Point, and now they have to try and defend mid as well. Good damage onto Lwandy here. Damage onto the tower from LNG as Flandre is off on a flank here. He's Aurelia though, so he's not that tanky just yet. I say that Gore Drinker is a hell of an item. And now the re-engage comes through from EDG. Scout finishes off Lwandy. Tarzan forced back into the jungle where he came from. Light trying to get some damage down as Jiejie gets a good pillar there. The stolen Trundle is the deadliest. And it's going to be EDG with one pick and a Drake.
That was a great bait made for Flandre. We said the most dangerous part for LNG was when EDG could close that gap. By allowing that flank to happen, it makes things easy for EDG to close that out. Now you got third dragon coming through for EDG. More gold going the way of EDG. Flandre even finishing off that Gargoyle stone plate as well. He's got shields on shields on shields going through right now. And you need to find some way to work through this. But watch how long he survives here, right? This is everyone at LNG free-firing on him. Gore Drinker, Sterax, the shield from the Lantern as well. They cannot get through him. And it just gives the opportunity for EDG to close that gap we were talking about. Icon not being able to slow people down. The Trundle Pillar only works one direction, and when you're coming from several, LNG will fall.
And this time, it's the troll under the bridge that has to pay the price. Lwandy going down at the end of the play, and now pings on towards this Baron from EDG. They've got 3 Drakes. They don't have to worry about the next one for another 3.5 minutes. Now it is time to continue to put this pressure onto the map. They have a massive gold lead to work with. They have item advantages across the board to work with. And it's time for them to start to get some pressure. Look at Tarzan on the map right now. He's in the bottom lane. If he gets spotted by Flandre or someone, that could be dire straits for LNG.
Yeah, I think EDG going to take a little bit slow. Now they spot Tarzan though, but I don't think they're going to just suddenly turn and try and burst out the Baron, but pushing the rest of LNG out onto this bottom side, they can look to rush down mid.
Yeah, just get the inside track on this mid lane tier 2 instead. Icon gets underneath the tower to try and defend. He is Lysandra, so very tanky. And alongside Ale can clear that wave very effectively. But this is where Lethality Varus comes into his own, right? Long extended siege plays like this. The Scout gets a bit of poke onto Lwandy in the back of the fight as well. And Dagda, all game, it felt like LNG, they can't do anything. It doesn't feel like they have a way to actually impact the game here. This is just EDG inflicting themselves upon LNG. Now onto the tower they go. True Shot Barrage does a little bit of a scratch onto 2 players, and that's about it. It's the tower falls, and EDG, vice-like grip on this game.
Oh, Viper takes a chunk of damage. I don't think it's going to matter too much. LNG now trying to see if they can get that inside track for themselves in towards mid lane, but EDG, they're looking for the flank.
Flandre's going in. It's going to be the stun across the team. Remember, he has the Sterix, he has the Gore Drinker. Has to back away, at least for the time. Big scout over the wall, big damage across the team. Heartbreaker in, and it's Flandre to go down and start things off. So far, so good for LNG. Scout still poking off from the side, but EDG over forcing the play, and LNG answer beautifully.
That's where you can see the power of the Trundle for this pick. You try to go for the team fight by EDG, but you're all trying to sandwich into this small corridor, and the pillar just cuts you off, so the rest of EDG can't follow up. They deal with Flandre, and they continue to put the car in reverse, back away, but now Scout playing with fire here.
Yeah, not opting for the Lantern either, perhaps worried that Lwandy would perhaps be able to block with a pillar or something, but sticking around, denying the Baron at very least. It is just a singular pick for the side of LNG. But importantly, it's a singular pick in a game where it's not felt like they've had any pressure to do anything. So very, very important pick.
Hey, I mean, you've doubled your kills for the game. I feel like that's kind of a bit of a win here for LNG. So, I mean, you'll take it, right? And I think this is kind of where you can see, hell, if LNG are able to find these moments and play towards their compositional strengths, they're okay. EDG just need to make sure that they're doing what they have been doing, controlling this vision, and especially with 35 seconds up, if EDG control the river and can burst out this dragon, it becomes really difficult for LNG to try and contest that while avoiding EDG's engage.
And just take a second here before the Drake comes up. Look at Viper's CS, 340 as we head to the 31-minute mark. He is ahead of 10 CS per minute so far this game, and it means he's terrifying in these fights as LNG trying to group up. This would be Soul for EDG if they can get it, and that Soul might just net them the first game in this best of 5. LNG desperate to keep the miracle run alive. They've been knocked into the lower bracket, but they're not out of the tournament just yet. Drake going to be started here by EDG. Tarzan is the closer one though, so it aggroes towards LNG. Makes it a little bit more difficult for EDG to position. Now into the Drake they go. Tarzan having some pressure put onto him. He has to be the one to make something magical happen here. Into the back of the pit. There's a hook onto Lwandy though. EDG found themselves a pick. They can reset the Drake. They can go for a fight instead. Flandre returns back into the pit. Scout finishes off Icon. 1v1 me, bro. Takes him down. Easy peasy. And that's going to be EDG with a Soul with complete control.
And LNG are just forced to run away. They've given over 2 kills, Soul easy as you like for EDG. And now, with 2 members of LNG dead, they just turn their attention towards Baron.
I mean, EDG just playing it slow. This is the EDG we've known all year long. Slow and steady wins the race in this composition, allowing them to do exactly that. Now onto the Baron as the pace speeds up. Ale, great shock blast there. Onto Jiejie. Does have a lot of sustain though, and Ale wants to find a way in, but that's half of his health bar gone immediately. Meiko, if he could find a hook, would finish him off. Flandre having to tag up. In goes Meiko, but it's actually going to be a 1-for-1. Nicely done by Ale, at least to take someone out, but I don't think it's going to matter in the grand scheme of things. Tarzan over the wall, perhaps an opportunity to steal the Baron. Gets into the pit, but it's too late. It's actually Scout that got the Baron in the end. Lwandy locked up. Tarzan goes down. LNG, last chance saloon as they try to retreat into the jungle. But ultimately, EDG don't want anymore. They got what they wanted.
There's just nothing left in the tank there for LNG. They tried to make the play, and Tarzan, he gets into the pit, but just a bit too late. Now, Baron up. This 1-3-1 becomes even stronger for EDG. You can send off Flandre to a side lane, Scout to a side lane, or you just have Scout play with the rest of the team as well and just look to barrel down this mid lane. But you're going to see in the replay here, again, this is a problem with Electrocute. You do not have the damage to deal with Scout. Scout just hops back over the wall, then finishes off Icon. Lwandy went down at the start of that fight as well. And then we get a replay here of, I mean, just the flash in from Meiko to help Scout finish off Ale.
Yeah, it's like it's a combination of factors, right? Where obviously the Electrocute certainly not helping, the massive gold deficit too, and not necessarily working out for Icon at this point in the game. Good effort from Tarzan to try and get in the pit there, but ultimately didn't quite find the smite that he needed. And the fact that Scout gets that Baron is a little bit dicey, to say the least, for EDG. But let's just take a moment and appreciate the fact that Scout is 5-0-1 in this game. His LeBlanc has looked beautiful, playing this very much poke style of LeBlanc, right? In and out of these fights, just doing chunks and chunks over and over again. It's really something to witness here. It's the top lane tower will be sieged. We talked about it all game long. This is Viper's comfort zone, sitting on that lethality virus, just shooting fish in a barrel.
And as you say, like between the poke from the LeBlanc, poke from Varus, it's really difficult for LNG to just stick around. Yes, they've got that long range, but they just don't have the items to facilitate being able to answer right now. And as EDG push in with these Baron minions, it's only a matter of time before the base starts to fall.
Scout was leaning over towards that bot side as well instead of pushing the wave, because he wasn't sure if a fight was about to kick off. Shock blast coming on through. And well, LNG weathering the storm for now, but there's 50 seconds left on this Baron, and one more cannon shot should be able to finish that tower off, but they're managing to block it at least for now. Scout goes in, gets a chunk onto Tarzan here. There's some arrows through from Viper as well. If they can clear this wave, they can finish the tower. The threat from Jiejie as he jumps forward forces Light out of the play. And that will be mid-inhib taken now by EDG. They can move the pressure up to the top side. Ale has to be careful here. He stepped up pretty aggressively here, stunned up and taken out under the tower. Now a chain of corruption across the team as well. Flandre wants to go further into the fight there. Low, is he willing to do it? Has his passive stacked up. Flandre has the blade dance ready to go, but no dancing today. The disco is tomorrow. We're too early to the party, but the inhibs will have to do instead.
I'm kind of arguing EDG are dancing on LNG right now, as that's the flawless duet, but no one to follow up.
Hook goes wide as well. EDG, they're just looking for a pick. They want to finish the game right now, but they can't quite find a window. They'll back away, they'll play it safe, but with two inhibs taken, with the bottom tower only on that inhib tower as well, the bottom lane, sorry, definitely feels like EDG on the cusp of a dominant game number one win here with a 9,000 gold lead. And Dagda, I just have to ask, where was this EDG against WE?
I mean, it's a good question, right? I think a lot of this kind of coming back to your earlier complaint about LNG is the LNG just not drafting as well. EDG coming out looking far better in the drafts than they did with WE. You end up with the counter pick top, one of the strongest picks that you talked about, LeBlanc in that mid lane. The counter for Icon not even going that particularly well. And the jungle matchup as well. I was really surprised to see this high priority for the Olaf. I thought we'd get Lysandra, I thought we'd get LeBlanc, I thought we'd get Syndra, I thought we'd get something for LNG, but this Olaf pick just really wasn't it, and I don't know why it's first pick blue side.
Yeah, the Olaf, clearly something from scrims, right, from LNG, where they felt like this Olaf was a big pick for them, not working out in this game with Viego. Kind of coming up trumps in the jungle matchup. And now, we see EDG just grouping up in the bottom side of the map. They already got the other two inhibs. Time to finish the job and do this one by the book, which, you know, that feels appropriate for EDG. It feels like going back to basics, going back to what worked in the regular season. Flandre could be in trouble here. Group up from LNG, a flank on the top side.
Oh, God.
Where did he go? Oh my days, Icon wants to make a miracle flank, but there's two of them in the jungle, and in the meantime, the rest of EDG weathers the storm 3v4. Now this 5-member strong for the side of EDG, and they can start to threaten a dive. They can start to threaten the end of this game with Scout behind the play as well, looking for a pick onto Ale. There goes his health bar. See you later, Ale. And now into the bottom lane they go as well. It's going to be a stopwatch, but it'll only buy a couple of seconds as Light goes in. He will be taken down. He gets one for his trouble, but at the end of the day, it does not matter. EDG have come in looking dominant, looking like the regular split second seed that we knew them to be.
A confident victory from EDG, even managing to pick off several members there at the end as they just wandered their direction. And EDG will take a convincing game one.
LNG looking like hide-and-seek champions here in game number one, as I just don't know where they were. I could not find them all game. Did not show up. EDG, though, looking cool, calm, collected, confident. Lots of words beginning with C, because this is a team that had a really, really rough series against WE. We can't sugarcoat it. We can't say it any other way. Having to sub in Juntia just to be able to take 2 of the games in the series, it was a really, really rough showing. they've clearly gone back to the drawing board, figured out what went wrong, and you have to praise the coaches and praise the preparation that's come into this series, because it feels like a night and day performance from this team.
Yeah, they really did know what LNG were going to be up to, right? We saw this early play towards the top side from LNG. Flandre, phenomenal outplay. But then we get the follow-up very quickly coming through with Jiejie there to facilitate, also having Scout there. And I think it was one of JJ's biggest strengths in the regular split was how good he was at, like, tracking the opposition and being in a position to go for counter ganks while also setting up his own team for success. And I think we got to see a little touch of it back now as well. So I'm glad our apology quarter went well, because it could have gone a little bit AY, but we're getting praise for it here. But yes, I think as well, EDG across the board really stepping up. Meiko and Viper, if I can talk, looking spectacular in that bottom side of the map. Viper as well, dictating the pace of that, getting several turret plates for himself. Scout as well, manhandling Icon from the get-go in that mid lane. Like, it was non-stop from EDG across the board, just kind of looking pound for pound like better players.
The insane thing is that Scout absolutely destroyed Icon when he got counterpicked. Scout picked blind. Scout went for this LeBlanc. You know, you could have gone for the Balzar. You could have gone Twisted Fate. You went for the LeBlanc, for the Lysandra, sorry, which is known as a LeBlanc, at least neutralizer, if not counter. And just not able to do anything in the matchup at all. And multiple times getting killed by Scout as well. Really, really impressive performance from the EDG mid laner. And from the veteran player of this team. Remember, Scout is very much the leader of this team, and it shows in this game.
And I think coming into game number 2, I really want to see some mix-ups from LNG, particularly when it comes to draft. Like, one of the big things that we praised LNG about was their creativity in the draft, where we'd see, like, Tarzan coming in that, like, 4th pick red side as the jungle selection, kind of getting to see what the whole game was going to be like before he selected it. This time around, we see the Olaf lock in first. It was basically non-existent in the matchup. Giving away things like the LeBlanc, I think, were pretty scary. Also, I think there was enough counter picks open, or at least picks that can do well into the LeBlanc still available, that you probably didn't need to lock in the Lysandra, right? You still have like things like the Syndra. We could still go towards bruisers like the set in the mid lane if we wanted to. There were options available, but instead they end up going for the Lysandra instead of something like the Ashe and getting a strong bot lane for themselves. It felt like the entire way along we were just seeing LNG slipping further and further down with how good their draft was going to be able to compare to EDG, and I really want to see them pick it up now for game number 2.
We'll have to see. LNG, they've got to go back to the drawing board. We're going to jump into a break. And then we'll see if LNG have a little bit more for us, or if EDG are just going to